Welcome everyone to Our Unity, a show that wishes to spread a spirit of peace and love in the world, one conversation at a time.
None of that affects how you are going to change the world.
That's right.
No, it does not take one person to change the world, but it takes one person to believe in themselves.
Yes.
That they can make a difference.
I love
to
that.
Inspire others.
And that's why, for me, I try to make it my purpose now to try to help other people realize their self-worth, because it's so sad that so many of us, we get destroyed based off of what other people have to say.
Yeah.
I would say do it in your own way, make sure you're doing it on your own accord, and take a risk.
Go out there and live your life passionately. Believe in everything that you're doing and believe in the fact that you will accomplish every single goal. Welcome everyone to Our Unity, a show that wishes to spread a spirit of peace and love in the world, one conversation at a time. We want to encourage you to lead by example. Live your life with honesty and truth. Walk in integrity and uplifting and empowering others around you. It is so important that we literally lead by example to ensure that we're creating a better world for everyone that we encounter on a daily basis. I am all about leading by example and just leading with love and leading with hope and leading with compassion. And I hope that you guys out there are also doing the same. So I am your host, LeShawn Walker. I'd like to welcome you in. Please like, share, and follow. Let everyone know that we're on right now. Please tag a friend. I hope that you guys have had a wonderful week, a wonderful start to January. So many things have been going on. So many changes have been happening, but it's still a blessing. It's still a blessing to be here, to be alive, to be experiencing all that is going on in the world and how we are able to fit in. You know what I'm saying? So tell me what you've been doing for the last couple of weeks. January is almost out of here, my friends. I cannot believe it. But I will tell you, honestly, it's the favorite time of the year for me. January is a very special, special month to me. And although I don't like the cold, I'll be honest with you, I prefer like the fall or the spring where there's a little breeze in the air. Just feeling comfortable in your skin, not too hot, not too cold. But January is important and special to me because it was my birthday. Last week, Tuesday, the 21st of January, LeShawn celebrated a milestone birthday. I will not dare share with you how old I am. Let's just say I still feel 25, I will say. But it was a milestone birthday, and I'm so blessed and honored to still be here. I'm so grateful to God for all the blessings that He's just brought into my life, all that I've learned, all that I've gained, all that I've experienced in the many years that I've been here on this earth. I'm going to tell you something. When I was younger, I'll probably say around 18, 19, even 20, 21 years old, I used to think that being the age that I am today was old. I really, really did. I didn't understand how someone could make it to this age and stage in their life and still look so good and feel so great. And though I have been able to make it happen, I now realize that age is only a number, my friends. It's all about how you feel, how you look at life, and how you choose to take care of yourself. And so I am so grateful, as I mentioned earlier, to God for blessing me with another beautiful year. There's so many friends and family members that did not make it to this milestone age. So many people that I miss right now and wish I could have celebrated this moment with them. And unfortunately, they're not here to be with me. And I felt a little lonely. I'm not going to lie, because I kind of wanted to turn up on my birthday a little bit. But I decided to spend some time with LeShawn and get to know who she is and what she feels at this stage in her life. I realized that there's some things that I'm not going to tolerate moving forward. And I'm sure you guys, once you hit a certain age, you've gotten to that point as well. There's things you want to accomplish and achieve. There's things that you want to do that you've just been putting on the back burner for so many years. In addition, just wanting to get past the things that have been holding you back from so long for living the life that God intended for you to live. There's attitudes and thoughts and things like that that you keep in your mind, that you hold on to, that I refuse to move into my next chapter holding on to. Just like I've been changing in the last 5 years, the next 5, 15, 20, 25 years, yeah, I expect to be here for a very long time. I'm going to make sure that I'm growing through those things. So I hope that you guys are doing the same when you're just waking up every single morning, not necessarily having it be your birthday, but just being grateful for another year, another opportunity to just live your best life and live it with intention, live it with purpose, live it with passion, and live it with joy and leading by example. That's exactly what I've been able to do as I've crossed this milestone in my life, and realizing that is really, really important because you don't know who is watching you. I realize my daughter has gained a lot of perspective seeing me at this age and stage in my life, bringing to my attention the things that I told her and taught her is actually benefiting her at this moment. So even though back when she was younger, I'm pointing my finger and don't you dare, she sees the value in what I try to instill in her. So I am so glad that I was able to lead by example because she's now walking in that greatness right now. And I'm so, so happy and grateful for it. So today, that is the topic of discussion. We will be talking to a great man and apparently his son, who's actually joining the conversation as well, about what it's like to lead by example. So we're going to talk to the Dr. Carl Robinson, and the title of the show is The Power of Servant Leadership. Dr. Carl Robinson is a dynamic leader whose career spans military service, public safety, psychology, and education. A U.S. Army veteran, he later served as a firefighter before earning expertise in clinical and forensic psychology. As chief counselor and executive director at Greater Dallas Life Skills, Dr. Robinson has developed transformative programs impacting criminal and family court systems for over 2 decades. He is the founder of Harvard Christian University, which boasts over 250 distinguished alumni excelling in diverse fields. A published author, Dr. Robinson wrote the Best Anger Journal, a 30-day cognitive behavioral training experience, and developed 12 curriculums on emotional intelligence, crisis intervention, and more. His work with the Community Violence Intervention Project, in partnership with President Joe Biden, targets 16 cities to address social and economic disparities. Featured on major networks like TBN, CBS, and Fox, Dr. Robinson's contributions to education, psychology, and community advocacy reflect his commitment to leadership and positive change. So please help me welcome the very distinguished Dr. Robinson and his son, Dr. Robinson. Welcome, guys.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you guys had a wonderful afternoon so far.
It's been cold here, but your affirmations really kind of warmed us up.
Aw, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's kind of chilly here in New York as well. I'm kind of shocked that Texas, because you're in Texas, correct?
We're in Texas, but it's cold here.
Wow, I am amazed at that. I was actually in Texas back in October. I was with Anna's house. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it is a domestic violence shelter. I was honored with the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award at that amazing gala. And it was beautiful and warm down there in October while it was still chilly here. So I'm so shocked that you're experiencing a cold front right now, but Thank you guys so much for being here. I so appreciate it. I want
Thank
to
you.
talk about all that you have going on. But first, Dr. Robinson, I'd like to thank you so much for your service, not just in combat and saving our freedom and standing for our freedom, but also combating fires with being a firefighter. Thank you so much for all that you've done and contributed.
Well, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve, and that's been my heart and my heartbeat. And you can't get far away from your belief system. If you believe certain things, you
Yeah.
tend to do them. Yeah.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Well, let me ask you, I want to dig right in because, the
Okay.
show, it always seems to get away from me right when it's getting good. So I want to make sure that I get all that I can from you and you as well, Dr. Jonathan Robinson. Please introduce yourself real quick. I don't have any information on you, but tell us a little about yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. My name is Dr. Jonathan Robinson, and I'm the provost of Harvest Christian University, as well as one of the instructors.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Well, welcome, gentlemen. Welcome. Dr. Robinson, I want to ask you, and that would be Dr. Carl Robinson.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
share, what inspired you to focus your career on mental health? Because I read in your bio that that was something that was very important to you. How did that actually come about? And when did you see that there was a need for focus on mental health, especially since it's so prevalent right now?
That's a great question. I had started many, many years ago in high school as a
Mm,
counselor. I was counseling some of the young ladies who had boyfriends who had issues. So it
mm,
came very early for me in
wow.
doing that, and then being in the ministry and serving licensed as a deacon at 13, teaching Sunday school at 10 years old,
Right.
and first sermon at 16 years old. The pastored First Church at 21 years old, became one of the
Wow.
youngest bishops at 43 years old, and now I serve as on an international level as an archbishop. But I looked at mental health and I saw that the most unhealthy place on the planet was the church.
Yeah.
And because people believed if I went to church,
Right.
therefore I'm okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to curve that and I wanted to start something to educate pastors and get them involved in the educational programs and get to start to, because pastors used to be gatekeepers for mental health.
Yeah.
Before before you took a pill, you called the pastor.
You
Before you
did.
got married, you called the pastor. If you had a problem, you called the pastor.
Yeah.
And they were the gatekeepers up until after the Second World War, and then that changed because the educational programs changed. And that was my goal, was to educate pastors and chaplains on the behavioral health. And then it just kind of took me to some places. But the biggest thing that encouraged me to do this and to look at mental health was first my own mental health.
Right.
And I didn't live it vicariously through a project. It was just coming to a place that I understood that I had to be responsible for my own mental health, especially as a man of color.
Yeah.
And that was, I had to sit and I held my youngest son in my
Mhm.
arms while he passed away.
Right. Wow.
When that happened, some of my great friends, even out there in New York, Dr. David Birnbaum, who's a second generation jeweler
Hmm.
in New York out there, he was a university professor. And
Right.
the issue with that is that he called me up one day and he said, I heard about that you lost your son. He said, but Dr. Robinson, I'm sure that you were the best father that you could have been every day. Because when you lose someone, it's always coulda, shoulda. I just left them. I just talked to them. They were just talking to me. I started to go over there, but I didn't. I was supposed to call them and I didn't.
Right.
I was dealing with coulda, shoulda, woulda after watching my own young son pass away in my arms. And so I
Right.
had to find a way to deal with my own pain. And David put me on a great path to start to look at myself from the inside out.
Right.
What did I know about myself and what did I believe about myself? And as I started to do that, within that same year, we began to do anger management classes, cognitive
Mm.
behavioral retraining, and it morphed and it did very well. Second, third year, then we even went up to six figures in behavioral health and anger management realms with domestic violence and
Wow.
criminal violence cases. Yeah, so that's how I got started.
Wow, that is amazing. Please let me extend, my deepest prayers and condolences for the passing of your son. I mean, I'm sure that had to be a very traumatic experience for you, especially being your youngest. I love the fact that you said you started it in church, and you're so right. I grew up where you're right. The pastors were our mental health professionals, and we were just told in a lot of instances to just pray things away. And, some people have real life issues that even though we have faith in God, we believe that He will heal us in all capacity, we still need to seek out more additional help. I mean, God created psychiatrists, psychologists, and all of those things to benefit, our well-being. So did you notice at that time that, there were a lot of people, especially struggling with the stigma of seeking help, that you needed to push the issue that, mental health is important, it's real, and we need to address it and address it in a more clinical fashion?
Well, that's a great question. You asked all the right questions. I don't know. Um, what I saw was a need to push the pencil, push the envelope a little further, because we were given scripture to read, but we weren't given the scripture in its totality of enough to know how it would benefit us as individuals. We knew how it would benefit the church and how we could be faithful and how we could support, but we didn't see the mental benefit in the Bible that's clearly there. One of the things that it talks about in the book of Matthew is that he was named, Jesus was many things in the first chapter.
Mhm.
From the last book in the Bible to the first book in the New Testament, from the Old to the New, it's
Right,
only one page,
right,
but it's exactly 400 years, and they call
right.
it the 400,000 years, and it opens up with, and she shall bring forth a son. The
Mhm.
characteristics, or one of the characteristics of the son, is that they would call him Wonderful Counselor,
Right, right,
Wonderful Counselor, and that, and so I had to study that, and it simply means to bring light
right.
and give direction. And
Yes.
so when I saw that, I would see scriptures like, be not conformed, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your minds.
Yeah.
Okay, what does that look like?
Mhm. Yep, exactly.
We have been told what that looked like. We did the victory run on that one, but when we got back and sit down, we still don't know what it looks like.
What it looks like, yeah.
Yeah, so I had to look in to see how we could transform and change, and that's when we began to write the Best Anger Journal
Yeah.
on cognition, because the cognitive side of us are we in spirituality we forget that the cognitive has to work along with the spirituality, and they
Yes.
have to come in agreement in order for you to even know that you have a relationship with what you believe, if that makes
Right.
sense. And so
Yeah.
that's what we did. We put that together, and we were seeing 230, 250 million a year coming through the classes. And they would sit there, and guess what? It wasn't mental health as much as it was they needed skill sets. So
Yeah.
we started teaching the skill sets in behavior cognitive retraining, emotional intelligence, psychological resilience. And
Mhm.
people would walk back and not sign the divorce papers. They would go
Yeah.
back and they would reunite themselves. They would go back and become stronger because of what they've gone through, because now they got some skill set
Right.
to go along with the tool set. A lot of people got a skill set that they didn't derive from any tool set that we know about.
Right. Right. You ain't never lied, my friend. You ain't never lied. I love that. And you're right. It is emotional intelligence, because I think that we're so quick to react to our feelings instead of seeing the whole picture, of why we are reacting the way that we're reacting, why we're choosing to have the emotions that we have instead of looking deeper into the issue, the situation, or even the problem, to derive at a better way to handle it, and us to also mature and grow in that effort. So I think that is fascinating. I do. Well, I don't want to go without asking your son a question or two. So, Dr. Jonathan
Just ask him one. He's a
Robinson.
co-host. He's not hosting. He's not.
Yes, Austin, he's sitting over there to the side. I'm going to ask you a question. How did you benefit from, your father's expertise and what he was bringing into the church and teaching others? How did you benefit from it? Or do you have a story maybe from your past that, can speak to what he's been able to teach others about mental health and, growing within yourself?
Absolutely. Also being a product very closely to the church. I also realized that even in my own personal development was looking at the things that I had been taught in church versus what was happening in my reality, and I continued to see a disconnect. The
Mm.
older I got, the more disconnected it became, and I just couldn't bring the two realities that I had become so comfortable with, because when you have a myopic view of life and it's looked at through one single lens, it's very hard to separate the different realities that you exist in every day. So when I started to get older, I started to see that the realities were separating and I couldn't keep them together. So going through that, that's what made me decide to go back and look at, okay, what have I been taught in church, and why didn't this help me when I was going through this? Why didn't this help me when I was going through this? And that's when I realized that the importance of emotional intelligence and things like that, because I was one of the kids that was dealing with, bullying and different things like that. So I felt like it was important to be able to find a way to have something outside of what I had been leaning on for a long time, that eventually it just became a bigger weapon that was used, that was really causing more problems in the other segment of my reality. So again, I wanted to close the disconnect, and that's what being able to even confide in him as a counselor was able to do, was being being a part of the program, being able to see the lives that were impacted by it. And then eventually I became somebody who was trained in the program, and now eventually
He's teaching all the
I was
classes now.
teaching all of the classes, and I was helping NFL players, NBA players. I was helping people who were really going through just challenges you would not imagine, and just because of the trust and the confidence that he put in me. So that's what I appreciate most.
I love that. I really, really, truly love that. Again, that's leading by example, which is, my message for today. And let's talk about a little bit about those lives that you were able to impact. I mean, you're a young Black man, and I know, like you said, you were bullied in school. Like, I'm sure you went through sort of the same things that every young person goes through. But being a young Black man, how is it teaching others who look like you that it is important for them to seek assistance when they're not feeling right? Even expressing how they're feeling or truly believing that they have these feelings. How is that, teaching them and the impact that it's making on them right now?
Oh, I can answer the first part of that, and then the second part I'll let Dr. Robinson answer, because he can tap in deeper. One of the things that I found that was extremely important in that aspect was that they need to find something that they can identify with. I was a person that was pretty much always identified, with the church, and sometimes that was a repellent, because they didn't understand how somebody like me could possibly have any problems in the world or have gone through anything, when in reality it's the complete polar opposite.
Yeah.
I'm faced with just that much adversity, but I had to have something that was guided and navigated, and that's having wise counsel. That's what I had my father for. That's why he put me around other mentors and elders and people like that, who were as sound as he was. And
Mhm.
so for young people who are going through that, I would encourage them not to live with their silence, because that will be the thing that will eventually kill them.
Yeah.
So they have to be able to find a support system or find a source that they can reach out to be able to navigate through it, because you can't do it by yourself.
Right.
You can't do it on the island by yourself, and you cannot sit in silence expecting the solutions to come to you. You have to be able to go to something where you can navigate. And I can
Yeah.
let Robinson tag in on that.
Yes. Please continue, Dr. Robinson.
Well, when he came in, I'm a listed psychologist on Psychology Today. And so they would call for me, but when they get to the classes, they would see this little young guy. And and I was just close the door and leave them in there, and they would work out everything from spirituality to their learning. We have something different programs like we call changing hats, how to
Mm.
really change hats, and I have a couple of stories about that. May not have time to listen to those today, but we would give those analogies to these people that they could take back and have a daily application back in their relationships. Like, for instance, domestic violence, they would come in and they say, he's really too young to know, but he knew. And he could tell when they walked in, because once you learn how to do cognitive behavioral retraining, it becomes a sixth and a seventh sense. And we were able to help people just go back and see themselves just through the curriculum. And they would write, and they're journaling, and there's this, and then they're raising their hands, and this. And these are people coming from across all racial backgrounds. They're sitting in these classes. But one of the best things is when someone is domestic violence, they would show up and they say, well, I hit my wife, but that wasn't me. And I would tell them, unless you're a twin, it was you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was you. So that's cognitive dissonance. I did it, but that's not really me. And so and people misjudge that to be narcissistic. And they have to be very careful with that, because there's several other terminologies and other diagnoses that can be given to people that are very close to that particular terminology.
Right.
Being narcissistic. So you got to really know what you're talking about. It's not just a conversation piece. Oh, that's what they know. And so I've had that. And the biggest thing is that even with single parents who would come in, he was able to teach them as well. And after he did that for so long, it became natural. They were challenged, but he would overcome it, which was great. Now, while he's doing this, he's not living this vicariously.
Right.
The most dangerous things that people can do. And I've seen people start anger management rooms where you break up stuff. You go break up. And I told them, I said, don't do that. They're like, why? What are you going to do when you don't have anything to break up? You'll end up breaking someone, because when you get angry, you lose up to 80% of your intelligence.
Yeah.
When you're angry, you lose up to 80%. That's why you pay $1,500 for a phone and get mad and you throw it against the wall. And the same moment it leaves your hands is when your intelligence light come back on.
Yep. You're
right. In your right mind, you would never do that, because you know how much it costs and how hard it is to replace it, and all that kind of stuff. So people were getting cognition to remind them, to help them to understand, to be able to mind the other person and understand, have the emotional intelligence quotient, to be able to understand and listen to other people. And he did very well, and he's doing most of the classes now. I don't have to do them all. So now I'm teaching teachers, and he's still teaching the classes. So, that's what we're doing now. So,
I love that. I truly, truly love that. And it is so needed, especially I feel now more than ever. We have so many different entities that are trying to raise and dictate to our kids and our youth what it is to be a man, what it is to be a woman, what it is to be human. And we need people like you that are sort of guiding them, to feel, like you said, not live in silence, to feel the emotions that they have, but channel them in a different way. So I'm so glad that you guys are still doing the work. I'm so happy that Dr. Jonathan Robinson is still, paving the way for the youth underneath him. I think that is fabulous. I really do. So speak to me real quick about your journey in mental health. Do you see right now that it's changing? Do you see that a lot of youth, a lot of men are actually coming to you and wanting to learn more about how they can live out of the darkness and come into the light with their issues and their problems?
I don't see a big number in terms of the changing in the minds of the male, from the male perspective across all races, to say, I need help. Because we've been taught that you don't cry, and these little boys, you fall into the get up, don't cry. You all right? No, I'm not all right. And so I did something called the Teen Factor, and it's a video out there and I did another one called the Father Factor, which is out there as well. And a young man, he needs that father part. So I'm seeing it come apart there. I'm not seeing that camaraderie in terms of, because the best father is a son. The best father is a son.
Yeah.
When I was coming along with my father, he adopted me. He wasn't my biological father. He
Mhm.
adopted me at 29 years old. He said, "I'm going to be your dad." I'm
Wow.
like, I ain't never had no dad. I'm like, what?
I don't
I'm
know what that's
20
about. Hmm.
I'm 29 years old. Say what? And he said, "I'm gonna be your dad, and your kids are gonna be my grandkids." And he adopted me, and he hugged me, and I felt strange because I'm like, dude, someone just hug, and then on top of that, he would tell me he loved me all the time. That wasn't in my family vocabulary coming up as a kid. We never had that. Even when it came time for your birthday, you got X amount and one to grow on. That was it.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
We came along, and we come along with schools who had not quite segregated yet. I grew up in that time. And
Right.
so with him putting that in my family unit, we don't hardly go past each other. We got a 2-foot rule or 3-foot rule. If you get within 3 feet of me, somebody's gonna get a hug.
Yep. I
You
love
know,
that.
and that's to reinforce, because you never know what people are thinking or what they're going through or what has happened to them or what has not happened for them. And so the Bible tells us we don't do anything, oh no man, but to love.
Yeah.
And you can love away a multitude of faults and sins if you're willing to love. The
Yes.
issue is that people would rather be mad
Yep. 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 You're
and rather
absolutely right.
hold it against you. And then the scripture tells us if you don't forgive, then he won't forgive you. What does that mean? That if
Yeah.
I'm not forgiving, I'm in an unforgiving state.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
now I'm not forgiving people, and I've been told to forgive, but I won't forgive them because somebody did something to me. And
Yeah.
so that's what forgiveness is all about, freeing the line.
Yeah.
Everybody along the line gets freed. And so then with that being said, a lot of men came in, and they would come in and tell us, and the first thing I do is ask them, tell me who you are. Well, they would tell me what they have. I said, okay, so you got bills. Then I would tell them, tell me who you are. And they would say, well, I'm married. I said, okay, you got a ball and a chain. Tell me who you are. They
Yeah.
would come back and say, well, I got this great job and I do this. I said, I'm meeting your representative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me who you are.
Wow.
98% of people who came to the class couldn't tell me
Who
who they
they?
were.
Yeah. They had
Because people that's right. They associate what they do to be
with
who
who
they
they
are.
are. Yep. Yep. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's really, really sad. But I think that's because they didn't have that person in their life that can show them who they actually are. More so telling them what they are, what they do, what they're supposed to do, who they're supposed to be to
Yes,
others and to the world,
right.
instead of sharing with them who they actually are. I'm a strong
Yep.
person. I'm a smart person. I'm a, educated person. Like these things, I'm a loving person. These things needed to be instilled in them at a very, very young age. And it's amazing to me how you're telling me that you didn't receive a father figure in your life until you're 29, because man, you are wise way beyond your years, my friend. And to think that you've also been a leader for such a very long time,
Got a lot of
and
years
being
too.
and being a leader for such a long time, and being able to discern these things at a young age, what was actually needed in the world around you, I think is amazing. Not having, and I'm sure your mother is an amazing woman, but not having that father figure in you that sort of teaches you how to live up to those things, those expectations of what a man is supposed to be. Well, the title of the show is The Power of a Servant Leadership,
Really.
servant leadership, which is clearly what you epitomize. Share with me real quick, what do you think that actually means? What is servant leadership?
Well, I think the first thing to realize that for me, I was raised by my grandmother,
Mm,
and we have a very rich Indian background. My grandmother is like 98% Indian, my great grandparents. I got to know my great grandparents on my mother's side as well, but my grandmother raised me. But better than that, I had a great Sunday school teacher at 9 years old.
aw,
And at 9 years old, when I became 10, I started teaching Sunday school.
right.
If you're going to do something great, you must have something called conviction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
conviction is not something that anyone can give you. That's why I don't like when people say you're empowering people. No, empowerment's from the inside.
From within.
Yeah.
You may put me on a plateau that make me feel empowered, but if it doesn't come from the inside, then I don't have anything to help me to deal with what's on the outside. My
Yeah.
psychological thing is on the inside of my head. My sociological thing is on the outside. So I got to have my psyche ready to deal with my sock. But
Yeah.
most people got more sock than they got psyche.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm coming along, and when I didn't live what I thought was right, I did something wrong. I would sit down. They said, "Lil Robinson, are you teaching Sunday school today?" No, because I didn't live right. I'm not going to do it.
Wow.
And I wouldn't teach my Sunday school. And I'm 10 years old, but I was convicted. I think leaders are born. I know that they're mentored. I know that they're raised up. But I think when I think about how we are made, I think
Mhm.
it's part of our DNA that we really that thing. But to have it brought out or the opportunities or the platforms for it to showcase doesn't always happen for everyone. But my grandmother was a third grade graduate, the
Mm.
smartest woman I've ever met in my
Wow.
life. She
Wow.
told me at 6 years old, son, be industrious. Third grade, that's industrious. I'm like, Mama, what's industrious? And she would speak to people a certain way they would speak. She said, how do? And then she would speak to certain folks. She would bow here. She was such a graceful lady, but she worked in the private home for only $12 a week. And she
Wow.
wore a dollar store tennis shoes and a little white apron and a little white uniform. But
Mm.
she saw that I had a suit to preach in my first sermon. She saw that I had my first vehicle. Um, that woman, she put me in the right direction.
Wow.
And I think that part of servant leadership you have to be careful because when you're dealing with people, you either deal with the heart or the head. So
Yep.
when you got strong-headed people, don't hit them in the head, hit them in the heart.
Yep.
When you got strong-hearted people, don't hit them in don't hit them in the heart, hit them in the head.
Yep.
You never hit anyone where they're strong at unless
Yeah.
you got a minute to stay there and fight. But what she did for me was she taught me to be convicted of what I'm doing, and if I'm not convicted, don't do it.
Right.
It took me some time to realize that through my conviction, it kept me with the character to lead.
Yeah.
What is character? Character certainly means to be able to do something long after you're supposed to or required to do it.
Right.
In other words, if you say you're going to do something and you start doing it and someone walks away, you don't leave, you stay there and do it.
Right.
That's character. And so I developed character. And I think along with character is one of the things that you have. The other one is integrity. Your integral makeup. What are you made of?
Yeah.
The piece of plastic is integral makeup is plastic. You can call it wood. It can look like wood, but it's not wood.
Yep.
The integral makeup is of a piece of steel. Is everything in that steel that makes it steel. And
Mhm.
so the integral makeup in someone is everything in them that makes them up to be what they are. Now, when a baby is born, they have 5 fingers, just like I do. What is the difference between their 5 fingers and mine? Well, age, one, experience, the other, recognition of what they're for. So several things go into developing that leadership. And I think that servant leadership is not necessarily someone who puts two words together, but I think it's someone who recognizes that leadership is serving.
Yes. Yes. It
That if
is.
I'm leading you, I'm committed to you. And I tell people all the time, I say, you're not my people, you're God's people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I work for him.
Yeah. I'm a servant of God. I am a servant of the Lord.
That's right. That's
Exactly.
right.
I love that. I love that. And you're so right, my friend. And let me ask you, Dr. Jonathan, listening to everything that your father just said, how convicted are you in continuing in the path that he's laid for you, knowing that, he's been through clearly a lot. He's learned a lot at a young age. How convicted are you to continue that legacy?
He gonna do what I told him to do.
I know that's right.
He's absolutely right about that. The conviction actually is something that was already instilling in me. I didn't have to go looking for it. He already instilled it in me extremely early. He one of the things that I think was key in that in the leadership aspect is that number one, he included me in the things that he was doing where he served. He included me, and as a kid you just glad to go, but you don't really understand the magnitude of why you went until you realize that there is something that is actually being imparted. So that was one of the things that was really significant for that. And then the conviction was making sure that I stayed surrounded by people who had the same outlook, in terms of being able to continue the success that he has begun in his foundation, and also being able to navigate and understand through his leadership the challenges that he's faced, and him encouraging me. I've been down that road, but if I can, let me just help you in the deterrent if that's what it takes, because I think that as leaders continue to make the path for the people that they're trying to help lead as well, the people who are following also need to understand the position that the leader is in as well. And
Yeah.
sometimes that position means that you're not always in the front leading. Sometimes you are on the side, or sometimes you're from the back. And that is because in that position, that does not change you from not being a leader. That just means that that position and the capacity of which you operate is going to be very versatile. So the versatility of what you do in leadership is equally important as saying, I'm a leader.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're so right. That's amazing because I know that you want to bring other people along. You want to make sure that you're uplifting and helping empower those that you're surrounded by, but also beyond people in your communities and people beyond your communities, to let them know that whatever they put their mind to, whatever they're convicted in, they will be able to accomplish. So I want to move right on to the fact that Dr. Carl Robinson decided he was going to start a university called Harvest Christian University, which is built to empower those around you and beyond, helping instilling them in education, giving them more information, growing them in their minds academically, but also in service. Tell us a little about Harvest Christian University and why you decided to develop it in the first place, Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. We actually, in 2004, when my son passed away, was the beginning of my journey of self-understanding and to understand myself and who I was, because now I've lost a son. Now I'm trying to figure out was I a good dad. I've lost a child, and I'm looking at family members. He's lost a brother. The mother has lost a son. And we're all trying to figure out how to deal with who we are, not just to grieve. So when we started this, we actually got started full blown out of the anger management life skills area to try to educate pastors.
Yeah.
That's where we started at. And that was in 2010.
Yeah.
And we started in 2010 because we understood the educational realm very well. We were very well versed in it. And so we moved into that. At that time in 2004, 2005, I had my first PhD in psychological and cognitive behavior retraining on the psych side. But I was very passionate about getting pastors involved. And so I couldn't get them involved on the level that I wanted to, because everybody was thinking about, who's dividing my church, they were thinking about they were thinking about adding, who's bringing something to my church that they shouldn't. And nobody was thinking about multiplication, how to multiply, how to duplicate yourself. When I got into the mode of understanding I had to duplicate myself as a leader, then I truly understood my purpose even better. So we began to reach out and reach for laity that wanted to be in the ministry.
Yeah.
Well, our first graduation was just that. We started a PhD school.
Wow.
And our school is indigenous, but we started a PhD school for pastors and counselors. Somewhere along the line, celebrities got involved.
Yeah.
Wow.
And business owners came up and we said, okay, this is bigger than what we planned.
Right.
Now we have another schematic to look at. And next thing you know, we're getting people like Tank coming in.
Yes.
And we looked at how we understood the educational system very, very well.
Right.
And so we started looking at other celebrities come in, and you name it, they were coming in. The co-founder of FUBU, you name it, these people were coming in, artists and writers, and I said, whoa, wait a minute, why don't we turn this into an indigenous school that uses the talents and the gifts of these people?
Right.
And get away from the 4-year nightmare.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And it morphed again.
Yeah.
And before it could finish morphing, it morphed again.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the first graduation was in 2018, 2019. And we've been doing things like the President's Lifetime Achievement Award since 2016. We've been doing it when it went popular. So we've been doing it for a long time. But we knew how to catechize these people's expertise because of the way that educational systems are not functioning properly.
Right.
And I think we're getting ready. We have a graduation, an inaugural graduation coming up in New York this weekend.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And of course, this will be number 11, I believe.
Yeah,
Number 11 of graduations of doctoral degrees that are coming through. But these people, when they graduate, automatically go into an adjunct professor's program to develop a curriculum that they can teach. Now, watch this. Several of our people are already teaching at other universities.
Right.
Using our degree. We got people who are teaching at Harvard who didn't have a PhD, but they got one from Harvard Christian University. And people don't understand how powerful an honorary degree is. It's a very powerful thing.
Well, that was my question. What is the difference? Because I know that, yes, what is the difference between an honorary doctorate and an actual academic doctorate? And how can you use it real quick?
Okay, very well. I'll try to do it very quickly. You asked me a whole lot right there.
I know, I always do. Well, just know, just you don't have to shortcut it. I want to know. So go ahead.
And that concludes my answer. That's it. I mean, but I'll say this, is that when we looked at these people, we saw the 4-year education as people who were teaching from a bachelor's degree and a master's degree trying to teach doctoral level.
Right.
And then we saw a 60% dropout of people who go for doctoral degrees. Right. And I'm like, and then Google, we talked to Google, and Google said, we don't want to see any more shiny new bachelor's degrees because they're not qualified to work for us. They're not taught the hard skills. Now Google is going into the high schools, 11th and 12th grader, and hiring their workforce. Because they don't want to wait 4 years because the Department of Miseducation, I'm sorry, the Department of Education has certain guidelines. Now, I'll say this, Martin. When you look at the matriculation, an honorary doctoral degree is not a piece of paper. It is an academic degree. It has always been an academic degree since the first one was given out through Harvard University in the 1800s. And when they gave it out to a gentleman that was so well versed, had so many things that he had put together and invented. He thought nothing wrong to call himself Dr. Benjamin Franklin.
Wow.
So when you go back and you look at the history of this, it didn't just pop up. Universities had to find a way to get the talent outside of the universities involved into the schools.
Correct.
And they started catechizing these peoples. And that's why a lot of schools lose their accreditation, because you got to pay a lot of big bucks. If you got an aviation program, you got to have somebody at least from NASA teaching.
Yes, you do.
They lose accreditation because they didn't have qualified people on hand on a regular basis.
Right.
That being said, the matriculation is simply core study. There was no experience. There's no hands-on.
Correct.
It's great.
Right.
The honorary doctoral degree is people had earned it in the mud.
Right.
In the dirt.
Right.
Sleeping in their car. Lost their friends along the way.
Right.
That's the honorary degree. Now, the difference between the two is that a matriculated degree that you receive from your college or your university is the promise that you will go out and do something great.
Mm-hmm.
But the honorary degree is the evidence that you already have.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. So it's literally the service and the work that you've already put in, you are being honored for at that moment, and knowing that you're going to continue on that path, in that journey, and bringing others along on the journey with you.
Absolutely. You know who said that? The head of NASA.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of the
Wow.
smartest people on the planet said that. I didn't
Yeah.
say it. He
Yeah,
said it.
yeah.
I'm repeating what he said. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Love
and when you
that.
recognize, do you not know that we have so many people that are teaching in universities?
Ah,
Well, see, our university's accreditation is kind of connected to Harvard. Most people don't know it, but
right.
our chancellor is actually been called to Harvard on several occasions to speak, and he'll speak at
Yes.
Harvard
Yeah.
for 30 minutes, and they'll give him $50,000. And
Wow.
so when they saw his accreditation on our school, it was a plus for us to know that our chancellor was connected to Harvard.
I
And
love
so
Yeah.
we call it political or whatever we want to call it.
whatever.
But when you have
Exactly.
people, yeah, when you got people who in law who don't have a PhD,
Yeah.
but they go to our school because a honorary doctorate or a honorary PhD degree is the highest terminal degree that you can get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I love it. And you offer different a huge curriculum, correct? This is
Here's the way we do. We offer for the honorary degree. We offer
mhm.
a wide range of doctoral.
Oh, he went out. I don't know where he is, but I'm sure he's going to return momentarily. So, as you heard, Dr. Robinson, he was discussing Harvard Christian University. They provide honorary doctorate degrees, and he was just sharing with us what the difference is between an honorary doctorate and an academic doctorate. They have actually a gala coming up here in Uniondale, Long Island. And he was going to be leaving Texas where he said it was cold. So I guess he's, already going to be prepared for the cold chill that we're going to have here in New York. But they're having a gala and they're actually having a graduation this weekend. I believe the gala is on the 31st. You guys, if you're interested in attending, there is the information. And then they're going to have the graduation, which I believe is going to be on the 1st or the 2nd. I'm not sure. You could see it on the flyer there. But Harvard Christian University, they provide a lot of different opportunities for those of you out there that are actually performing the work, doing the service, giving of yourself in whatever career expertise that you are in. You can definitely get more information on them when I show it at the end of the show. But they are doing some really, really great things. They have some prestigious honorees that they've already honored with the honorary doctorate, which is amazing. And I saw a few actually online. So when you get a chance, just look up Harvard Christian University online, and it'll give you all the background and information on that prestigious university. Again, we were just talking to Dr. Carl Robinson. Unfortunately, he went out real quick. I hope that he will return before we end the show. If you're watching, please, again, as I mentioned, they have a gala that's coming up on the 31st. You guys could see that there. And they have the graduation coming up on the 1st. And then there's a brunch, I believe. I should be attending one of those events. I believe I'm going to the gala. If you guys want to, meet me there, that would be really, really great. But this is a great opportunity for you to actually meet and greet some of the honorees for this session this year. As he mentioned, he started the Harvard Christian University when his son unfortunately passed away. He was, trying to figure out, who he was, especially after all that he'd endured. And, his family was also going through a lot. And he just wanted to give back in any capacity that he possibly could. I mean, he spent a life of actually being a leader within his community, specifically, helping people with mental health issues and things of that nature. Hey, you're back. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
I
Where's Dr.
apologize.
Robinson?
We had a We had something coming in. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, how are you? Sorry we got cut off. I was just showing the viewers the information on the gala that you have on the 31st. Can you throw that back up again, please, Carmine? Tell us a little about the gala. We got to end in about 2 minutes. So share with us, you're coming up here in the cold because, it's freezing here in New York. So you better bring an extra jacket. But share with us what's going on this next couple of days when you guys come to New York.
Yeah. Wow, ain't this something that just come along? Like if it wasn't supposed to, it wouldn't have.
Uh-huh.
But back then.
Want to tell me about the gala and the graduation? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? All right. I can't hear you right now. But again, I did share the information. I want you guys to please check them out. Look them up on the internet, Harvest Christian University. I gave you the information also on the gala and the graduation that will be taking place in the next couple of days. I want to throw up Dr. Robinson's information, please, where you can reach out to him as well. That is the prestigious Harvest Christian University. There is the email address as well as the phone number. If you're interested in checking out their curriculum, getting involved, being of service in any way that you possibly can, please reach out to Dr. Robinson as well as his son, Dr. Jonathan Robinson. So I want to get real quick, ladies and gentlemen, to the Dare to Be You. And it is dare to inspire through actions, not words. Uphold integrity, embrace accountability, and lead with humility. Listen, uplift, and empower others to reach their potential. Dare to lead with empathy, serve with purpose, and make decisions that reflect your values. Be the example others follow, creating unity, strength, and positive change. So that's exactly what Dr. Robinson and his son shared with us today. I'd like to thank them so much for being here and just sharing their journey and sharing the importance of mental health and taking care of yourself from the inside and out, and also being a servant leader, you being able to empower and uplift those in your circle and beyond. I'd like to thank you guys so much again for tuning in to another episode of Our Unity. I want you to check out the gala that's coming up on the 31st, as well as the graduation for the Harvest Christian University. And I want you guys to remember that peace and love. There is the information. Please remember that peace and love is in the palm of our hands. So let's go out there and be some love, give some love, and just live in love. I will see you probably in 2 weeks here on Our Unity. I want you guys to have a fabulous evening. Thanks again to Dr. Robinson and Dr. Jonathan Robinson. Remember that I love you, and we'll see you in the next 2 weeks. Have a great evening. Bye.